So I just got off of a FaceTime with this guy that I've been talking to. Like, just literally, we be talking. We have really intellectual, philosophical conversations. And so, and I don't know how the conversation got started about masculine and feminine energy, but it was brought up. And I said to him, I said, you know what? I'm so glad that you met me while I'm in my feminine, divine feminine energy, that you didn't meet me when I was running my masculine energy, because I was not the same person. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I was rah, 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 ready to fight, cuss you out, just running out masculine energy if I felt disrespected or if you just pissed me off. And he was like, I can't imagine you cussing somebody out. And I said, trust me, it's still in there. I'll still do it. He started laughing. I said, but me in my divine energy, in my divine feminine, I approach things with a softer approach. I'm not ready to jump off the porch and beat someone's ass. I'm not ready to jump off the porch and cuss somebody out. Like, I know, and other people around me are like, your energy is different because I'm in my divine feminine and I don't have to run my masculine. And so he said, when did you start being in your masculine energy? Was it when you were married? Did it happen when you were married? And I said, no. I said, I was already in my masculine energy, but being married to a person who did not allow me to be in my feminine energy, I had to continue to be in my masculine energy. I said, and then you got to put on top of that, we had children and stuff together, and I really was the dude in the relationship. Like, I was the masculine energy. The roles were reversed because he didn't have it. He didn't have masculine energy in him at all. That's another topic. So then he says, so at what age do you remember being in your masculine? He was like, was it when you was a teenager? And I said for a minute, and I got to thinking, and I said to him, I said, the first time I remember being in my masculine energy was when I realized that there was no one who was going to protect me. And I had to protect myself. And he said, at what age was that? And I said, I know I had to be at least 6 or 7. The moment when I knew that I wouldn't be protected. Like, that sense of safety I didn't have. And he said, why? And I said, what I realized in those moments of when I was running on my masculine energy as a child, kind of being not aggressive. I wasn't an aggressive child, but I'm gonna say aware. I said, and when I became aware of a lot of things, I realized that being a female in a Nubian family is one of the most dangerous things to be. And he just looked at me. He didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. We just sit in this statement that I said. And he was on the camera, but then he sat back. And we just stared at each other in the camera. Nobody was saying nothing. And then I said, but you know what I've been realizing here lately, talking to other family members? It's not safe to be a male child in a Nubian family either. You're not protected. I said, and so what I'm realizing I said, I guess I realized it as a child, but what I'm really putting together because of the recent things that have happened, that no child is safe. It's always going to be an unsafe place. There's always going to be an unsafe adult. There's always going to be another unsafe child. Because what I realize and what I remember is this. Anytime you have children watching and overseeing and being caregivers to younger children and there's no adult present, someone's going to get molested. That younger child is going to get molested by one of the older children. And what I could never understand is, why do adults think that it's okay to have children watching children? Especially when some of y'all know what y'all done to these other children. They're going to think that it's okay because molestation is a learned behavior. That is a learned behavior. You just don't wake up. A child doesn't wake up one day and decides to go and molest another child. That is a learned behavior, meaning someone has done that to them, right? But I remember the safest that I ever felt was when I'm a country girl. My grandparents, my mother and I lived in the country when I was born. And when I was a toddler, and even in elementary school. And what I remember is the safest that I felt was when I was in my grandparents' home, because there was adults watching children. And then when I would go up to my cousin's house, my cousins, my grandfather and their grandfather were first cousins. And so they were really close. And when I would go up to their house, my cousin, whose name was Faye, I called her Aunt Faye, but she was my cousin. Her kids wasn't watching kids, and she had a lot of kids. She was there watching the kids. Nobody was being touched. And when he asked me, well, when is the last time you felt safe as a child? I brought her up, and I said, I always knew that she and her husband were going to keep me safe when I was with them. If I was at their home, so that means for like the majority of my life, I have not felt safe. And I was running on masculine energy. And when I made those statements about kids molesting kids and all that, he got really quiet. And when he got quiet, and we were still looking, and he had this look on his face, and I said, who touched you? And the look on his face, he said, ever since it happened, I've been trying to make it go away. And I told him, I said, you know what? You don't want it to go away. You want to get healed from it. I said the first thing that you have to do to get yourself healed from it is to accept that it happened and that it wasn't your fault. And I said, and depending on how many times it happened, that is how many times you need to accept it and you tell yourself that it's not your fault. But I always wonder, the person that did that to the child, who did it to them? Like, how far back are we going with this? Is this generations of someone, not even running rampant in a family? It could just be one family member. That one family, who did, like, how far back are we going with this? Children touching children. Adults touching children. Like, how far back does the molestation go? And now, the things that I'm being told, like, no child safe. No child safe. So it's like, where do we go from here? Because I've never been a fan of children of any age watching other children, unless it's their child. Now, if you had a baby as a teenager, that's your baby. You're not watching that baby, that's your baby. But I'm saying, you watching older kids watching younger siblings for hours and no adult is coming in to see what the hell's going on. Someone's going to get touched. Someone's going to be made to feel uncomfortable. Even if they're not touched, they still going to feel some kind of a violation because, you know, the underlining sexual undertones can also be a form of this person is trying to lead you into a grooming relationship. And so I don't even know why they came up with me and him, but we had a very long conversation about it, and he opened up a lot about it. And why y'all just can't keep y'all damn hands to yourself? Why y'all messing with kids? Like, what is so fascinating to you sickos that you want to do nasty shit to kids, and you want kids to do nasty shit to you? Like, how we get here? How we get here? I'm talking about Nubian homes, because I'm Nubian. I can't be talking about nobody else's home. I'm talking about, like, how we get to this kind of thing. And then what I also realize is, when certain family members realize that certain other family members are protectors of children, they don't play that kind of bullshit about kids. Now they're deemed the bad person. Now they're deemed the problem because they calling people out about, hey, don't be doing this shit to her, or don't be doing that to him. Like, they are standing up for the children. They are letting it be known, I am a safe space for all the kids. And the other people who are not safe spaces for children, who do not protect children, who just are batshit crazy and just worried about their own little shit and don't care what's happening to kids, even their own kids, now they get mad at the person that's protecting the kids. They call them problematic. How we get here? I know more people who were molested than I know people who wasn't molested. Let that fucking sink in. I know more people, men and women, because this is what we need to realize as a society. Men don't realize they were molested unless a man touched them. Women do a lot of molestation of children than people want to admit. I've had conversations. Okay? There's another time I was in the barbershop, and, you know, the barbershop is not my space. I'm a girl. So when I would go to the barbershop to get my hair cut, I would sit and I would shut up because that wasn't my space. I would only talk if someone asked me a question or if the barber was talking to me. And then I would chime in. This particular day, it was no kids in there. It was just all adults. But I was the only chick in there. So my barber, who we were friends, he was cutting somebody's hair. I was sitting and waiting, and then it was 3 other people getting their hair cut. Somehow somebody started talking about the first time they had sex. So he says, I don't even know how it came up. But I mean, it's dudes. So they could have been talking about the wind blowing, somebody talking about sex. So boy say the first time he had sex, he was 13. And I'm like, But I didn't say shit. And then I want to say it was my barber said, and how old was she? And he said she was 17. And they all like, yeah. And I'm sitting there like, the fuck? So then the next person says, shit, the first time someone performed all sex on me, I was 10. In that moment, I said, and how old was she? He said she was 16. She was a babysitter. Like the fuck? But the icing on the cake that took me down was, dude in the barbershop said the first time he had sex, he was 15. She was 28. She got pregnant. So now I'm sitting there, and they all talking this, like it was okay. And I said, can I ask y'all a question? And they was like, what? I said, if I told you I was 5, the first time somebody performed oral sex on me, what would you say? And they was all like, oh, hell no, that person need to be killed, like they going off. And I said, do y'all not realize y'all was molested? And they like, no. I said, y'all was molested. Y'all couldn't give consent. Y'all was molested. Molested. And I just kept saying, y'all was molested. Until it started sinking in. And when I realized it started sinking in, you could see their whole body language just change. And I said, you're 10 years old. She's 16. She's giving you all sex. You don't have consent for that. You were molested. I said, a 28-year-old woman having sex with you when you're 15 and she gets pregnant, you were molested. Your mama and daddy should have pressed charges. I said, and you 13, she's 17, you were molested. I said, that's the same way if I'm 15 and a 28-year-old man has sex with me, that's molestation. We need to change the face of child molestation too. It needs to include women. And I feel like women do more molesting of children, of girls and boys, than men. And no one looks at it like that because they're women. Oh, they're nurturing. They molesting kids too. I don't know why. That just was heavy on my heart right now to make this video right quick. But I would love to hear people's thoughts, but I know ain't nobody gonna comment. And that's okay. Y'all be in my inboxes, so I'll take the inboxes. I'll take the questions. We can talk about it. But parents, be vigilant. Trust your children with no family member. Always in the back of your mind, think this person could molest my kids. Because you never know. You just never know.